Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the UHS Defiance, watching the stars through the main window. His ship floated at the edge of the Kepler 442 system, far from Earth and far from home. The silence around them felt heavy, like the calm before a storm. "Captain, we have an incoming message from Earth Command," said Communications Officer Amy Rodriguez. Her voice carried worry that made Jake's stomach tighten. "Put it through to my private office," Jake replied. He walked to his small room behind the bridge, knowing that messages marked as urgent usually brought bad news. The hologram of Admiral Kate Sullivan appeared above his desk. Her face looked tired and grim. "Jake, what I'm about to tell you will change everything. The Galactic Council has given humanity an ultimatum." Jake felt his heart skip a beat. The Galactic Council ruled over 12 alien species and had controlled known space for 3,000 years. Humans had only been traveling between stars for 200 years, which made them babies compared to the ancient aliens. "They want us to abandon all our colonies beyond the Sol system," Admiral Sullivan continued. "We have 6 months to pack up and leave, or they will destroy every human settlement outside Earth's solar system." Jake sat down hard in his chair. 47 star systems held human colonies. Millions of people had built new lives on distant worlds. Farmers grew food on New Kansas. Miners dug precious metals from the asteroids around New Denver. Families had lived on these worlds for generations. "Why now?" Jake asked. "We've been peaceful neighbors for decades." Admiral Sullivan's image flickered slightly. "According to their official statement, we violated territorial agreements that existed before humans ever left Earth. They say we're an invasive species that threatens the balance of galactic civilization." Jake laughed, but there was no humor in it. "Invasive species? We've helped them trade, shared our technology, and never attacked anyone." "I know, Jake. But the Council sees things differently. They claim our expansion rate is dangerous. In 2 centuries, we've spread to nearly 50 systems. Most alien species take thousands of years to expand that far." The weight of the situation pressed down on Jake's shoulders. He thought about the colonists he'd met on his missions. The children, born under alien suns who had never seen Earth. The elderly who had spent their last years building new homes among the stars. "What does Earth Command want us to do?" Jake asked. Admiral Sullivan smiled for the first time during their conversation, but it was a cold smile. "We're going to tell them no." Jake stood up so quickly his chair fell backward. "Admiral, they have technology we can barely understand. Their ships are faster, their weapons are stronger, and they outnumber us 1,000 to 1. Sit down, Jake. Let me tell you about some things Earth has been working on in secret." Jake picked up his chair and sat down again, his mind racing. "For the past 50 years, our scientists have been developing something called the neural web. It allows instant communication across any distance. While the aliens still use regular radio signals that take years to cross space, we can coordinate all our colonies in real time." Jake had heard rumors about such technology but never believed them. How is that possible? Dr. Alex Chen at Titan Research Station discovered how to link human minds through quantum connections. Every human settlement is connected to the network. When war comes, we won't be fighting as separate colonies. We'll fight as one species with one mind. The idea both amazed and frightened Jake. The Council doesn't know about this? They have no idea. They think we're just a young species with basic technology. They're about to learn how wrong they are. Admiral Sullivan's expression grew serious again. "Jake, I need you to return to Earth immediately. Bring your crew with you. We're preparing for war and we need every experienced captain we can get." After the call ended, Jake sat alone in his office for several minutes. War with the Galactic Council seemed impossible. The aliens had ruled space since before human civilization began. Their oldest ships were older than human history, but humans had something the aliens didn't understand. They adapted quickly, learned from their mistakes, and never gave up when their backs were against the wall. Every time someone had tried to destroy humanity, humans had found a way to survive and grow stronger. Jake walked back to the bridge where his crew waited. Lieutenant Commander Lisa Harper, the ship's science officer, looked up from her station. Captain, long-range sensors are detecting unusual activity near the border systems. Alien ships are moving into positions around human space. Chief Engineer Ben Tucker wiped grease from his hands with a dirty cloth. Captain, if there's going to be trouble, the Defiance is ready. I've been working on some improvements to our engines and weapons systems. Jake looked at his crew. These people had followed him across the galaxy, trusted him with their lives, and never questioned his orders. Now he was about to ask them to follow him into a war that would determine humanity's future. Listen up, everyone, Jake said, his voice carrying across the bridge. We just received new orders from Earth Command. The Galactic Council has given humanity an ultimatum to abandon all colonies outside the Sol system. The bridge fell silent. Amy Rodriguez's face went pale. She had family on New Mars. Earth Command has decided to reject their demands, Jake continued. We're going home to prepare for war. Ben Tucker laughed and shook his head. Well, Captain, I always wondered what it would be like to fight aliens. Guess I'm about to find out. Lisa Harper ran calculations on her computer. Captain, based on known alien ship positions, they're not just threatening us, they're surrounding us. This isn't going to be a negotiation. They're planning to attack whether we agree to their terms or not. Jake nodded grimly. The aliens had made their choice, and now humanity would make theirs. He thought about all the human children growing up on distant worlds, all the dreams people had built among the stars. The Council wanted to take it all away. Set course for Earth, Jake ordered. Maximum speed. It's time to go home and fight for our future. As the UHS Defiance turned toward Earth, Jake wondered if they were flying toward salvation or destruction. But one thing was certain. Humanity would not go quietly into the dark. 3 weeks after the ultimatum expired, the first attack came without warning. Colonel Ryan Davis was drinking his morning coffee on New Kansas when the sky lit up with alien ships. The agricultural world had no military defenses, only farming. Equipment and civilian settlements scattered across the green plains. The Zephyrian ships looked like giant metal insects with wings that gleamed in the sunlight. They moved in perfect formation, their weapons charging with an eerie blue glow. Ryan had served in Earth's military for 20 years, but he had never seen anything like this. All civilians to the underground shelters, Ryan shouted into his communicator. This is not a drill. The first energy blasts hit the main settlement of Prairie Town. Buildings exploded into flames, and the ground shook under Ryan's feet. The aliens weren't trying to capture the colony. They wanted to wipe it off the map. But the people of New Kansas were not helpless. Most of them were farmers who had spent years fighting harsh weather, crop diseases, and equipment failures. They knew how to solve problems and work together when things got bad. Ryan gathered the colony's leaders in the emergency bunker beneath the grain storage facility. Mayor Linda Stone, a tough woman who had helped build the settlement from nothing, spread maps across the metal table. We have 500 people in the main settlement, and about 2,000 scattered across the farming districts, Linda said. The aliens have at least 50 ships and more are coming. What weapons do we have? Asked Dr. Frank Mills, the colony's chief medical officer. Ryan looked at the list on his tablet. Hunting rifles, mining explosives, and whatever tools we can turn into weapons. The aliens have energy weapons and armor that can probably stop anything we throw at them. Then we don't fight them head-on, said Tom Brady, who managed the largest farm on the planet. We fight them like we fight crop pests. We hit them where they don't expect it, make them waste their time and resources, and never give them a moment of peace. Over the next few days, the people of New Kansas proved that humans could adapt to any situation. They used farm equipment to dig tunnels that connected the settlements. Mining charges became improvised bombs. Crop dusters became attack aircraft that struck fast and disappeared into the clouds. The Zephyrians had never faced an enemy like this. Their previous conquests had involved formal armies that fought according to established rules. Humans broke every rule they could think of. Meanwhile, billions of miles away, Captain Jake Morrison sat in Earth's military command center, listening to radio transmissions from New Kansas. The neural web allowed real-time communication across space, giving Earth Command a clear picture of the battle. The Zephyrians are getting frustrated, reported Communications Officer Amy Rodriguez. Their commanders are sending increasingly angry messages to their fleet. Dr. Samantha Wells, Earth's expert on alien psychology, studied the intercepted communications. She was a small woman with gray hair and sharp eyes that missed nothing. The Zephyrians fight according to ancient traditions. They expect their enemies to surrender when faced with superior firepower. Colonel Davis and his people are confusing them. Admiral Kate Sullivan walked into the command center carrying a stack of reports. We're seeing similar patterns on 3 other worlds under attack. The aliens win when they fight conventional forces, but they struggle against irregular tactics. Jake studied the tactical displays showing alien ship movements. Admiral, I'm seeing something strange. The alien fleets aren't coordinating with each other. Each species seems to be fighting its own war. Dr. Wells nodded thoughtfully. The Galactic Council is made up of 12 different species, each with their own culture and military traditions. They've been united for thousands of years, but that doesn't mean they trust each other completely. On New Kansas, the fighting entered its 2nd week. The Zephyrians controlled the sky, but the humans controlled the ground. Every time alien troops landed, they faced attacks from directions they never expected. Ryan Davis led a raid on a Zephyrian supply depot using converted farming vehicles. The aliens had parked their transport ships in an open field, confident that no human weapons could threaten them. They were wrong. The humans had filled old fertilizer spreaders with mining explosives and metal scraps. When they detonated, the improvised weapons sent deadly fragments in all directions. 3 alien ships exploded, and the others fled back to orbit. But the real breakthrough came when the humans captured a wounded Zephyrian soldier. Dr. Mills treated the alien's injuries while Ryan questioned him through a translation device. The Zephyrian, whose name translated as Swift Hunter, was different from what the humans expected. He seemed tired and confused rather than angry or aggressive. Why? Are you attacking us? Ryan asked. We never threatened your people. Swift Hunter's insect-like eyes focused on Ryan with difficulty. The Council fears you. Your species grows too fast, learns too quickly. In a few hundred years, you will be stronger than all of us. That's not true, Ryan replied. We just want to live in peace. The Vorthak convinced the Council that humans are dangerous. They say you will conquer the galaxy if we do not stop you now. This information changed everything. Ryan immediately sent a report through the neural web to Earth Command. The aliens weren't fighting to protect their territory or resources. They were fighting because they were afraid of humanity's potential. Dr. Wells analyzed the interrogation records with growing excitement. This fear is their weakness. Scared people make bad decisions, and scared aliens apparently do the same thing. Admiral Sullivan called an emergency meeting of Earth's military leaders. If the aliens are afraid of us, we can use that fear against them, but we need to be smart about it. The battle for New Kansas continued for another week, but the humans had learned something important. The mighty Galactic Council, rulers of known space for 3,000 years, was not as united or confident as they appeared. On the 15th day of fighting, Colonel Davis received an unexpected message from the Zephyrian fleet commander. They wanted to discuss terms for withdrawal from New Kansas. Ryan smiled as he read the message. The farmers and settlers of New Kansas had done something no military force had accomplished in galactic history. They had made the Zephyrians blink, first. But even as they celebrated this small victory, everyone knew the real war was just beginning. The other alien species would learn from the Zephyrian defeat, and they would come prepared for human tricks. However, humans would be ready too. They had learned that the seemingly invincible Galactic Council could be beaten. It would take courage, creativity, and the willingness to fight in ways no one expected. The galaxy was about to discover that underestimating humanity was a very dangerous mistake. 6 months into the war, humanity was losing badly. 17 colonies had fallen to the alien fleets, and refugee ships filled with families and children fled toward Earth. The news reports showed the same story over and over: human settlements burning while survivors escaped in whatever ships they could find. Commander Nick Johnson stood in the control room of Proxima Centauri Defense Station, watching the tactical displays with growing worry. The station protected one of humanity's most important industrial worlds, but intelligence reports showed a massive Vorthak fleet approaching. "How many ships are we facing?" Nick asked his tactical officer, Lieutenant Karen White. "At least 300 Vorthak warships, sir. They're bigger and more heavily armed than anything we've seen before." Nick had commanded the defense station for 5 years, but he had never faced odds like this. His 40 human ships were fast and well-trained, but the Vorthak Empire had been building warships for longer than human civilization had existed. However, Nick had something the aliens didn't know about. In the deepest part of the station, Dr. Rachel Martinez was making final adjustments to humanity's most secret weapon. "Prometheus is ready for its first real test," Dr. Martinez announced over the intercom. She was a brilliant scientist who had spent 10 years developing artificial intelligence that could learn and adapt during combat. The Prometheus system was unlike any computer ever built. Instead of following programmed instructions, it watched battles and learned from every mistake. It could analyze enemy tactics in seconds and develop countermeasures faster than any human commander. "Are you sure it will work?" Nick asked as he walked into the research lab. Dr. Martinez smiled confidently. "Prometheus has studied every recorded battle between humans and aliens. It knows their tactics better than they do. The question isn't whether it will work, but whether our enemies are ready for something completely new." When the Vorthak fleet arrived at Proxima Centauri, they expected another easy victory. The reptilian aliens had conquered dozens of worlds and never faced serious resistance. Their ships moved in traditional formations that had worked for centuries. But as soon as the battle began, everything went wrong for the Vorthaks. The human ships moved in patterns that seemed almost alive. When Vorthak weapons targeted them, the ships changed direction at exactly the right moment. When aliens tried to surround human vessels, the humans were already moving to new positions. Captain Tony Clark commanded the UHS Vengeance, one of the ships equipped with Prometheus technology. His weapons systems reconfigured themselves during the fight, switching from energy weapons to kinetic rounds based on what worked best against each enemy ship. "This is incredible," Tony said to his crew. "The ship is practically fighting itself." The Prometheus system analyzed every shot the Vorthaks fired, learning how their weapons worked and how to avoid them. Within minutes, it had figured out the timing of their energy cannons and began predicting where they would aim next. But the real surprise came when the human ships started working together in ways that seemed impossible. 40 separate vessels moved like parts of a single organism, coordinating attacks and defenses without any visible communication. Admiral Vorthak Kresh, commander of the alien fleet, watched his tactical displays with growing confusion. In 500 years of military service, he had never seen anything like this. "How are they coordinating so perfectly?" he demanded of his tactical officer. "Unknown, Admiral. Their ships appear to be sharing information instantly, but we detect no communication signals between them." The neural web allowed human ships to share tactical data through quantum connections that the aliens couldn't detect or understand. Combined with Prometheus analyzing the battle in real time, it gave humanity an overwhelming advantage. The tide turned completely when the Prometheus system identified a critical weakness in Vorthak shield technology. The aliens used a rotating frequency system that changed every few seconds, but the AI found a pattern in the rotation. "All ships, target the enemy flagship with synchronized pulse cannons," Commander Johnson ordered. "Prometheus will coordinate the timing." 15 human ships fired simultaneously at the exact moment when the Vorthak flagship's shields were rotating frequencies. The energy beams punched through the alien defenses like they weren't there, and the massive ship exploded in a ball of flame. Admiral Vorthak Kresh died, never understanding how the humans had done it. The rest of the Vorthak fleet retreated in, panic spreading news of their defeat throughout alien space. For the first time in 1,000 years, the mighty Vorthak Empire had suffered a major military defeat. News of the victory reached every human colony through the neural web within minutes. Captain Jake Morrison, now commanding a small fleet near the outer colonies, smiled as he read the report. "Maybe we actually have a chance," he said to his crew aboard the UHS Defiance. But the victory had an unexpected consequence. Ambassador Helen Stone, Earth's former representative to the Galactic Council, received a secret message while hiding on the neutral world of Sanctuary. The message came from an ethereal consortium ship that had witnessed the battle. The Ethereals were one of the most ancient and mysterious species in the Council, rarely involving themselves in warfare. Humanity fights with wisdom beyond their years, the message read. Perhaps it is time for new alliances. Dr. Martinez continued studying the Prometheus system's performance, making improvements based on what they learned from the battle. But she also discovered something else while analyzing the data. Commander Johnson, I need to show you something. Strange, she said, calling Nick to her laboratory. On her computer screen, she displayed readings from the battle that made no sense. During the fight, several ancient artifacts scattered throughout this system began emitting energy signals. They've been dormant for thousands of years, but they activated when Prometheus came online. Nick studied the readings with growing excitement. What kind of artifacts? Precursor technology. The same mysterious devices that are found on worlds throughout the galaxy. No one has ever figured out how to activate them, but somehow, our AI triggered a response. The implications were staggering. The precursors had built technology throughout the galaxy millions of years ago, then disappeared without explanation. Every species had tried to understand their devices, but the ancient machines remained silent and inactive. Until now. Dr. Martinez, this could change everything. If human technology can activate precursor devices, we might have access to powers we can't imagine. Rachel nodded thoughtfully. But it also explains why the aliens are so afraid of us. If they know about this connection, they understand that humanity might inherit something that was never meant for them. As news of the Proxima Centauri victory spread, both humans and aliens began to realize that this war was about more than territory or resources. Hidden beneath the conflict was a mystery that reached back to the dawn of galactic civilization. The precursors had left their technology waiting for someone worthy to claim it. After millions of years of silence, the ancient machines were finally beginning to wake up, and they were waking up for humanity. The secret meeting took place on Titan Station, hidden in the shadow of Saturn's largest moon. Ambassador Helen Stone had spent months arranging this impossible encounter, and now she sat across from a being that looked like living starlight. The Q. Ethereal called itself Whisper of Stars, and it spoke through musical tones that the translation device converted into words. The Ethereal Consortium has watched this war with growing concern. The Council acts from fear, not wisdom. Helen leaned forward carefully. The Ethereals were the oldest species in the galaxy, older even than the precursors according to some legends. If they were offering an alliance, it could change everything. Why now? Helen asked. Your people have stayed neutral for thousands of years. Whisper of Stars shimmered as it thought. Because we see in humanity what we once were. Young, curious, reaching always for the stars. The Council seeks to destroy this spark, and we cannot allow it. The alliance was agreed upon in secret, but putting it into action required careful planning. General Paul Mason, Earth's top military strategist, coordinated with ethereal commanders to plan joint operations against Vorthak supply lines. The first joint mission targeted a massive supply depot in the Kepler 186 system. Captain Jake Morrison commanded a mixed fleet of human and ethereal ships, each species bringing their own strengths to the battle. Human ships were fast and adaptable, using the Prometheus AI to outthink their enemies. Ethereal vessels moved, like ghosts through space, their advanced stealth technology making them nearly invisible until they struck. This is amazing, Jake said to his crew as they watched ethereal ships phase in and out of normal space. They're using technology we can barely understand. But the ethereals were equally impressed by human tactics. Commander Shimmer of Void, the ethereal fleet leader, observed how human ships work together with perfect coordination. Your neural web creates unity we have never achieved, Shimmer of Void told Jake through their communication link. Each ship acts independently, yet serves the whole. The attack on the supply depot succeeded beyond their wildest hopes. Vorthak, forces already confused by human unpredictability, had no idea how to fight enemies who could appear and disappear at will. But the victory came with a price. News of the human ethereal alliance reached the remaining council species, causing them to unite more firmly against what they saw as a growing threat. On Earth, President Claire Johnson addressed the planet's population as orbital defense platforms prepared for the inevitable counterattack. The neural web connected every human consciousness on Earth into a planetary defense network that was beyond anything ever attempted. "My fellow humans," President Johnson said, her words reaching every person on Earth simultaneously through neural implants. "Today we face our greatest test. The Council Armada approaches our home, but we will not face them alone." The connection was deeper than simple communication. Every human on Earth could feel the presence of their neighbors, their families, their friends. 7 billion minds linked together in common purpose, all focused on protecting their world. Dr. Rachel Martinez worked frantically in her laboratory as the alien fleet approached. Her analysis of precursor artifacts had revealed something incredible. The ancient devices throughout human space were all connected in a vast network that spanned the galaxy. "President Johnson, I need to speak with you immediately," Rachel said, through the neural web's priority channel. The connection formed instantly, bringing the president's consciousness directly into Rachel's laboratory. In the neural link, physical distance meant nothing. "What have you discovered?" President Johnson asked. "The precursor artifacts aren't just technology. They're a test. Every species that reaches a certain level of development triggers the network, but only one species has ever passed the test." "Which species?" "None until now. The network responds to human neural patterns in ways it never has for any other species. We're the first to make it fully activate." The conversation was interrupted by alarms throughout Earth's defense grid. Admiral Kate Sullivan's voice echoed through the neural web. "All units, prepare for battle. The Council Armada has arrived." Their alien fleet that emerged from hyperspace was the largest military force ever assembled. Ships from all remaining Council species filled the space around Earth like a metal cloud. At their head flew the personal command ship of Supreme Admiral Vorthak Prime, the most feared military leader in galactic history. But Earth was ready. Every human ship, station, and orbital platform became part of a coordinated defense that operated like a single vast organism. The planet itself seemed to come alive as millions of defensive systems activated simultaneously. The battle began with the aliens launching their most powerful weapons at Earth's orbital defenses. Energy beams that could destroy entire cities struck shields that held firm, powered by the collective will of humanity. Supreme Admiral Vorthak Prime studied the tactical displays with growing amazement. "How are they coordinating so many units? It should be impossible." His tactical officer, a nervous young Vorthak named Sharpclaw, pointed at the scanner readings. "Admiral, I'm detecting quantum entanglement signatures throughout their entire defense network. Every human unit is connected to every other unit instantly." "That's impossible. No species has ever achieved quantum consciousness on a planetary scale." But humans had done exactly that. The neural web, originally designed for communication, had evolved into something far greater. 7 billion human minds thinking as one, coordinating the defense of their homeworld with precision that bordered on telepathic. The turning point came when Dr. Martinez made her breakthrough discovery during the height of battle. Deep beneath Earth's surface, in caverns that humans had never explored, ancient precursor machinery began to activate. "President Johnson, the network is responding to our collective consciousness," Rachel reported through the neural link. The precursors left this technology for a species that could think as one while remaining individuals. Throughout human space, dormant precursor artifacts came online for the first time in millions of years. On New Kansas, Colonel Ryan Davis watched in amazement as ancient towers rose from the ground, their surfaces glowing with power that made his equipment readings go wild. Similar activations occurred on every human world. The precursor network, silent for eons, began broadcasting information directly into human minds through the neural web. The knowledge was overwhelming. Star maps showing unexplored regions of space, technologies that could reshape matter at the atomic level. The history of a dozen extinct civilizations that had failed the precursor test. But most importantly, the humans learned the truth about the Galactic Council. The current ruling species had discovered precursor artifacts thousands of years ago, but had never been able to activate them. They had built their empire by claiming ownership of technology they couldn't use. Now that technology had chosen new masters, Supreme Admiral Vorthak Prime received the surrender demand not from Earth's military commanders, but from the precursor network itself. Ancient voices speaking through human neural connections offered him a choice: end the war and accept humanity's role as galactic guardians, or face the consequences of opposing forces beyond his understanding. The Admiral looked at his massive fleet surrounding Earth and realized that all his ships and weapons meant nothing against enemies who commanded the technology of gods. For the first time in his long military career, Supreme Admiral Vorthak Prime prepared to surrender. The final confrontation did not happen in space around Earth, but in a place no living being had ever seen. Deep at the center of the galaxy, where ancient stars burned with strange colors, the precursor facility waited in the heart of a massive space station older than any civilization. Captain Jake Morrison led the assault team through corridors that seemed to bend reality itself. The walls shifted between metal and crystal, and gravity worked differently in each room they entered. Beside him walked Dr. Rachel Martinez, Lieutenant Commander Lisa Harper, and their unlikely ally Whisper of Stars. The Council leadership is trying to activate the Omega Protocol, Whisper of Stars explained as they moved through the impossible architecture. It will sterilize every world that humans have ever touched. Jake checked his weapon, though he wondered if human technology would work in this place. How long do we have? The activation sequence takes 1 solar hour. We have been traveling for 53 minutes. Dr. Martinez studied her scanner readings, but the device showed information that made no sense. Jake, this entire structure is alive somehow. It's responding to our presence. They entered a vast chamber where the Council's remaining leaders had gathered around a machine that hurt to look at directly. Supreme Admiral Vorthak Prime stood at the controls, his clawed hands moving over symbols that glowed with deadly light. But he was not alone. Leaders from 8 other species surrounded the device, all of them focused on humanity's destruction. The insectoid Zephyrian queen clicked her mandibles in rhythm with the machine's pulses. The crystalline Hegemarch sang notes that made the air vibrate. "You are too late, humans," Supreme Admiral Vorthak Prime hissed without turning around. "In moments, your species will be erased from existence." Jake raised his weapon, but before he could fire, the chamber filled with light that seemed to come from everywhere at once. When his vision cleared, he saw that Dr. Martinez had placed her hands on a control panel that had risen from the floor. "Rachel, what are you doing?" Jake asked. "Something I should have done months ago," she replied. Her eyes glowed with the same light as the precursor technology. "I'm accepting what we were meant to become." The connection formed instantly. Rachel's consciousness merged with the precursor network, and through her, every human in the galaxy felt the presence of the ancient builders. The knowledge that flooded through the neural web was overwhelming but not destructive. It felt like coming home. Jake watched in amazement as the truth of galactic history unfolded in his mind. The precursors had not disappeared. They had evolved beyond physical form, leaving their technology as a gift for whatever species proved worthy of inheriting their role. The test was not about military strength or technological advancement. It was about the ability to remain individual while thinking as one species, to grow beyond the need for conquest and domination. Humanity had passed the test not through war, but through their willingness to connect with each other across impossible distances while still remaining uniquely human. Supreme Admiral Vorthak Prime spun around as the Omega Protocol device shut down automatically. "What have you done?" "We've accepted our responsibility," Rachel replied, her voice carrying harmonics that made the ancient chamber resonate. "The precursors left this galaxy in our care, not yours." The other council leaders began backing away as precursor machinery throughout the facility came online. Screens appeared in the air showing the suppressed history of galactic civilization. For thousands of years, the council species had ruled through lies about their own superiority. The Vorthak Empire had built their military power by reverse engineering precursor weapons they could barely understand. The Zephyrian Collective had claimed ownership of precursor territories while being unable to activate a single ancient device. Every council species had built their civilization on technology that was never meant for them. Now the rightful inheritors had come to claim their legacy. But Jake stepped forward before the situation could become another war. "Admiral, this doesn't have to end in more fighting." Vorthak Prime's reptilian features twisted with rage. "You think I will surrender to mammals who learned to fly between stars only yesterday? I think you're tired of fighting wars you can never truly win." Jake replied calmly. "Your people have been warriors for so long that you've forgotten what you were fighting for." The challenge came as Jake expected it would. In Vorthak culture, disputes between leaders were settled through single combat. Supreme Admiral Vorthak Prime was twice Jake's size, with claws that could tear through metal and scales that could deflect energy weapons. But Jake had advantages the alien commander didn't understand. The neural web allowed him to draw on the experience and reflexes of every human soldier who had ever lived. When Vorthak Prime attacked with lightning speed, Jake moved with the combined knowledge of his entire species. The fight was brief, but decisive. Vorthak Prime had trained for centuries in traditional combat, but Jake fought with techniques that no single being could master. He used boxing moves from Earth, zero-gravity combat from the asteroid colonies, and tactical awareness from 1,000 different battles. When the alien admiral lay defeated, Jake offered him a hand-up instead of a killing blow. "The war is over," Jake said, "but that doesn't mean we have to be enemies." 5 years later, the galaxy had changed beyond recognition. Ambassador Helen Stone served as the first chancellor of the new Galactic Alliance, working from a space station where beings from dozens of species cooperated instead of competing. The former council species had not been destroyed or enslaved. Instead, they had been freed from the lies their leaders had told them for millennia. Young Vorthaks worked alongside human engineers to explore the galaxy's outer rim. Zephyrian scouts and human pilots shared navigation data as they mapped unknown star systems. The neural web had expanded to include any species that chose to join the network. Not all did, and that was acceptable. The new alliance was built on choice rather than force. Captain Jake Morrison, now Admiral Morrison, stood on the bridge of the UHS Pioneer as it traveled beyond the galaxy's edge. The ship carried a mixed crew of humans and aliens, all united in their desire to explore the unknown. "Admiral, long-range sensors are detecting signals from the neighboring galaxy," reported his science officer, a young ethereal named Harmony of Worlds. "The patterns suggest intelligent civilizations." Jake smiled as he looked at the stars ahead. Humanity had become the guardians of their own galaxy, but the universe was vast and full of wonders yet to be discovered. Other species might be facing the same challenges that had once threatened to destroy both humans and aliens alike. "Set course for the source of those signals," Jake ordered. "Let's go introduce ourselves." Behind them, in the galaxy they now protected, children from a dozen different species learned together in schools where the impossible had become normal. The war that had begun with hatred and fear had ended with hope and friendship. And in the depths of space, ancient precursor machines hummed with satisfaction, their long vigil finally complete. The galaxy had found its new guardians, and they were worthy of the trust that had been placed in them. The stars themselves seemed to shine, a little brighter as if celebrating the dawn of a new age.